First Class Productions.
Jak and Daxter, the precursor legacy, helped define the early PS2 era. With colorful graphics and a mostly friendly vibe, it was easy to fall in love with. Fans were expecting something similar for its inevitable sequel. But then came a little game called Grand Theft Auto 3 and changed everything. Suddenly, open world games with guns and vehicles were everywhere. Gritty was in, friendly was out. Even our friends at Naughty Dog couldn't escape the hype and decided to veer off into a whole new direction for the series. That meant a more mature look for Jak, gunplay, vehicle theft, a heavier focus on storytelling, and a much darker tone. Jak II Renegade, as it's called in PAL regions, came out in 2003 for the PS2. I'm not sure when I got my hands on it, but I believe it was Christmas of '06. The absurd difficulty frustrated me at the time. I did like it, but not as much as the original. That said, my appreciation for this rougher and frankly meaner sequel has only grown over the years. With every subsequent playthrough, I got better and better. Here's some behind the scenes info from GFrom. Back in 2012, I announced it would be my first review of that year. Let's just say that I'm doing another month of Naughty Dog later this year. I recorded gameplay and wrote the script, but it never went further than that. As you may know, my channel took a 10-year break around that time, but we came back better than ever. And now I finally get to talk about Jak II. For this review, I'm playing the HD version on PS4. How does it play 20 plus years after its original release? I'm excited to find out.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
Jak II picks up right where the first game left off. Remember the big old gate that opened when we rounded up every power cell? Well, it turns out it's a rift gate. Activating it unfortunately set free a hulking monster and his minions. Oops, we're monumentally screwed. Jak, Daxter, Samos and Kira dash through the gate and eventually lose sight of each other. Jak gets taken prisoner while Daxter manages to escape. Jak gets tortured and experimented on by Baron Praxis for 2 years and grows a green goatee. Horrifying. Honestly though, he looks like a typical rock star from that era. Finally, Daxter shows up and rescues him.
I'm gonna kill Praxis!
Whoa, Jak can talk? And turn into whatever that is. He develops some anger issues, understandably so. By the way, we later learned what Daxter was up to all this time in his self-titled game on the PSP. But that's a story for another day. It's finally time to play. To get along in the main story, we need to play missions. This one is called Escape from Fortress. Will do. Here we learn the controls while listening to snarky comments from the orange devil on our shoulder.
Please tell me you remember how to roll!
Basically, the main moveset has been carried over from the first game. The orbs return, but here they're harder to find. In fact, they're elusive. Collecting them rewards you with a set of unlockable secrets. I'm making it my goal to get all of them, which I've never done before. Wish me luck. The only enemies here are Crimson Guards, and since they don't shoot projectiles, I can blast right through them. We finally emerge in Haven City and meet a crusty old guy named Core and a silent kid. Crimson Guards show up and it's our job to protect the two. A great time to turn into Dark Jak. In this form, Jak is massively overpowered and demolishes pretty much everything in his path. But Jak has no control over his godlike skills yet. What he can do is drive floating vehicles. Just like in GTA, he simply steals them from civilians. Quite the hero. The controls are a little weird. You can drive on 2 different altitudes, either just above the ground or a bit higher up like you're on an imaginary ramp. I usually drive below just to avoid the vehicles zooming around. More on that later. Core told us to meet Torn from the so-called underground so we can get to the Shadow. Of course, Torn won't talk to us right away like a stuck-up prick, and instead sends us on a quest to steal the Baron's banner. The minimap clearly shows where we need to go, and the big gates like this one lead us to different areas where we'll find the many levels and missions this game has to offer. This first place has the charming name Dead Town. You get what you expect. Disgusting animals, mud and ruins. Oh, can you imagine the the smell? These boxes contain health, and defeating enemies rewards us with the Dark Eco. I wonder what that's good for. After some simple platforming exercises, we find the banner. Aw, yeah. Oh no, poor guy. Worth it though, mission accomplished. Back at the underground, Torn complains about the shut-off water supplies. He sends us to the pumping station. This is where we first encounter metalheads. You know, these fellas. Killing them gives you these yellow shiny things. What are they and what do we need them for? We'll find out soon enough. Have patience. So we punch a bunch of these dudes and avoid electricity. This mission is over quickly and Daxter turns the valve. Luck is not on his side.
Jak, help!
An oracle symbol on the map.
Destroy my enemies, those creatures you call the metalheads. Bring me 25 of their skull gems, and I will teach you how to control these powers.
Oh, okay, so we need them to pay off the oracle. Gotcha. Still greedy and parasitic, huh? We don't have enough yet, so back to Torn it is. Jak grows impatient, but we can't see the shadow just yet. First we need to blow up all the ammo in the Baron's fortress. Sounds challenging. Oh god, I remember this. The first part is played from the perspective of the enemy. That makes for some awkward gameplay, but it's a fairly short segment. The vehicle keeps shooting while we try to escape the room. After dealing with more guards, spikes and conveyor belts, our heroes find a security pass and discover that the Baron is giving eco to the metalheads, the sworn enemies. No time to think about the implications of that, the vehicle is back. It's our job to trick it to fire at the cooling devices around the warhead. I remember this mission being obscenely difficult, but I only failed once this time.
This place has too much excitement. We need to move back to the country.
We still haven't proven ourselves worthy to meet the Shadow, so we gotta make a delivery to some guy named Crew at the Hip Hog Heaven Saloon. I haven't mentioned yet that we only had access to a tiny part of the city so far. The security pass we found earlier unlocks the industrial section barrier. Crimson guards are on our asses, but they're terrible shots. Maybe don't crash into them. Just some useful advice. I'm sorry, but Crew is simply disgusting. Gives me fat bastard vibes, but even more disturbing. Anyway, he gives us our first weapon, the scatter gun. We're officially adults now. With the new gun, we make our way to the gun course. Our new homeboy Sig tells us some basics and then it's off to score some points. Hit the blue metalheads. Yellow ones give up even more points. Watch out for civilians or you'll lose points. It might take a few tries to get the hang of it. See, there's no button for aiming. You just point Jak into the direction you want to shoot, which is awkward by today's standards. I didn't get bronze, but it's not necessary for this mission. I'll try again some other time when I feel like being an overachiever. Okay, so what now? Now that he's proved his quick draw skills, Crew wants to make Jak a wastelander for him. Wastelanders are like gophers. Go do stuff in the wasteland while I sit here like a slob. He sends the duo to join Sig at the pumping station. Our job is to guard him from incoming metalheads and other beasts while he charges his peacemaker. The enemies are getting bigger and more dangerous since they carry weapons.
Don't get cocky. Did you miss me?
Sig is such a cliche with his cocky 80s action star one-liners, and I love it. I managed to beat the mission on my first try. My approach was to stay near Sig and circle around him while blasting everything in sight. Before returning to Crew, I visited the Oracle and coughed up my 25 skull crystals. Ooh, I like that. Smack that all on the floor. Smack that, give me some more. The dark bomb depletes all of our dark eco, so no, I can't smack that floor no more. Crew seems delighted with us and has another mission. In the sewers. The memories are coming back. I hated that location back then. The job is to destroy 4 turrets so that Big Boy can keep up his smuggling grift. There's something utterly creepy about this place. Like seeing skull crystals looming in the dark. Whoa. Atmospherically, I like this now. And yeah, this is the first time I'm turning into Dark Jak on purpose. With that many enemies, Roid Rage is a valid option. So yeah, we need Dark Eco to fill up the Dark Jak meter. Oh man, I died at the last turret. And here's why people get nervous breakdowns when they play Jak II. You have to start at the beginning. no checkpoints. Here it's not that bad because it was only like 3 or 4 minutes of gameplay. Even without Dark Jak, I had no trouble. What I failed to realize was that I could have just left the level because the turrets don't return. Yeah, that was a waste of time, but overall a solid mission. Crew tells us there's a blaster mod at the port. Hell yeah. The blaster is the weapon mod I end up picking the most. Again, it's difficult to aim at first, but it can be mastered, and again bronze wasn't necessary to pass the mission. Good. This marks the first crossroads with multiple missions to choose from, just like in GTA.
All that freedom! What do I start with?
While we're here, we might as well pester Crew. He gives us a stadium pass which unlocks another part of the city. That's because he's on the lookout for a driver on one of his clients' teams.
We the racers hereby agree to give Crew all proceeds from race earnings, endorsement fees, broadcast royalties, syndication residuals, vehicle sponsorships, small appearance fees, collectible card assets, fast food tie-ins, use of likeness rights, talk show deals, clothing lines, all print rights including book, novella, comic, pamphlet, ticket tape, neon sign, and bathroom graffiti designs. Toy rights, shoe lines, mood rings, game rights. Game rights! Vitamin endorsements, city kickback movie deals, and of course, all death and dismemberment accident insurance claims.
We can work out the tiny details later.
To prove our worth, we need to race to the stadium in 3 minutes flat.
3 minutes of lead time!
As long as you don't get the attention of guards, you should be fine, but of course I crashed into one. They do disappear after a while, but it gets annoying quickly. As long as you pay attention to the wrench on the minimap, you should get there in time. There they meet a female mechanic behind a curtain who's dismissive of them, but challenges them to beat the stadium challenge with her new prototype jetboard.
I know it's supposed to be a secret, but come on, how do neither Jak or Daxter recognize Kira?
She has never heard Jak speak before, I get that. And how is this the only time Daxter conveniently keeps his mouth shut? Whatever. This is where the best new addition gets introduced, at least in my opinion, the jetboard. Kira, Mystery Lady, explains the controls and then it's off to perform a bunch of tricks to get 15,000 points. It's kinda like any old skateboard game from that time, grinding and jumping and all that fun. I was never into the Tony Hawk games that much as a kid, but I played the crap out of Street Skater 1 and 2 for sure. Anyway, it took me some time to get accustomed to the controls and perform some sick combos. On attempt number 3 I made it. I thought I would be able to keep the board, but apparently I remembered wrong. Damn.
So that was my brief and awe-inspiring career as a pro skater. Done with that phase.
Mystery Kira tells us about an elevator that might lead us up to the palace of the Baron. Haven't seen Torn in a while. He wants us to rescue one of his informants named Vin from the strip mine. We get there by a warp gate. This gate will lead us to all sorts of places throughout the adventure. 2 new types of metalheads want us dead, the Stingers being particularly feisty. This mission is really easy if you just keep distance and spam the blaster. Before you know it, Vin is rescued. He also gave us a mission, so we might as well stay here. This time the portal leads us to the drill platform, another place that I associate with unshakable trauma. See those green things? Those are metalhead eggs, and just like in Alien Trilogy, it's best to destroy every last one of them. The blaster won't be of any help though. Instead, Jak gets to use the gun pod. As soon as he steps onto that thing, a bunch of wasps come flying at him. Just shoot, shoot, shoot ad nauseam and keep an eye on your energy. The so-called Ginzu only takes damage from guns and the Centurion has a freaking shield. Cowards. There are a total of 3 gun pods and it gets increasingly more challenging. I made it through smoothly. Torn sends us on another quest to the pumping station to find a female comrade. We get to know yet another sort of metalhead called Spider Gunner. Yes, look like bugs and they have guns. Great! I feel this is a point where the difficulty curve rises a bit. After blasting through a bunch of douchebags, we find the patrol who gives me serious Angelina Jolie vibes.
It's easy to forget how huge of a star she was in this era.
That final part with the ambush is intense. At least there's a checkpoint, but why couldn't it have been after the cutscene? Sure, you can skip it, but it doesn't feel well thought out. I was worried I would run out of ammo, but I squeaked by okay. The chick's name is Ashlyn, by the way, and she gives us another security pass. Yay, less borders. Thanks, Ashlyn.
What a woman! Arrgh.
With 3 missions to choose from, I decided to give Greaseball Crew another visit.
I'm Tess. Torn sent me to spy on Crew. Play along, and I may be able to get my hands on a few of Crew's secrets.
Ooh, I love undercover work, baby. But 2 can work better than 1. Let me help you out.
Yeah, this isn't weird and concerning at all. Crew needs us to collect a bunch of money drops, 14 to be exact. This is basically like any old checkpoint race, except every guard in the city once is dead. One good thing is that we're not bound to a specific vehicle and can just change them at any time. You have 30 seconds for each package. Scratch that. This just became a whole lot more stressful. To stay alive, I kept changing the vehicle, which by the way is a move that can look pretty cool. On my second attempt, I made it and got another gun upgrade. As suggested by Ashlyn, we go to the bazaar and visit Onan the blind soothsayer and learn about the Tomb of Mar. Onan has an interpreter called Pecker, a cross between Iago and Abu from Aladdin.
No other comment on that name.
She sends us to the mountain temple to collect 3 artifacts. Each artifact counts as its own mission. We get there by a different gate than usual and can collect the artifacts in any order. Each comes with its own set of challenges. The first path I chose led me to this massive beast. What do I do? Is it supposed to ram into the wall? No, just shoot its underbelly when given the chance. The rest is rather simple platforming, unless you suck. Damn. Starting from the beginning. Well-deserved punishment for such a lackluster jump. This platform reminds me of a popsicle stick. Popsicles. Where was I? Clearly the platforming wasn't keeping me captivated. Ah, yes, a beautiful waterfall. The first artifact is a lens. The second path has another ram head in store for us and he's beaten in the exact same way as before. What's next? Raining boulders. Smash and crunch, smash and crunch. Holy shit, does it ever stop?
No, it doesn't.
You'd have to be suicidal to try to get up this mountain, but then again, this is Emo Jak we're playing as here. Timing is everything, but it's hard to dodge some of them. After that, the gear is ours.
No one will ever know we were here.
The third artifact took me the longest. Now we've got a little brain teaser. Smash the box and create a path. Might take a few tries, but I enjoy this a lot. Ramhead number 3 is just a pushover by this point. And so the shard is ours. That's it. This was the longest level so far, and I like this approach. We've killed enough metalheads to get another upgrade from the Oracle, the Dark Blast. Now that's some powerful shit. Jak needs Vin to switch on the access elevator in one of the palace's support towers. For that to work, we have to turn on all of the B-zone power boxes that are scattered around the city. That means destroying turbo cannons and stepping on the power buttons below.
Want to know an easy way to deal with them?
Just charge them with a vehicle and jump out before the crash. With this method, this entire ordeal is a cakewalk. As long as you watch out for the guards. Now we can make it up to the palace with the elevator. This view was truly impressive at the time. You can see the entire city. Remember that back in the early 2000s we were used to N64 games with foggy horizons and PS1 games with cramped scenery. Here, it's all clear. Gameplay-wise, it's a linear platforming challenge with a few hazards like turrets, electricity, spikes, and our good old pal, gravity. I'm always up for missions without a shit ton of enemies, so this might be my favorite thus far. Our heroes eavesdrop on the Baron who's talking to the metalhead leader. Turns out Ashlyn is his daughter. What a twist!
I thought the plot twist would involve Brangelina in some way, but I guess I was wrong.
What follows is the first boss fight against Baron Praxis, complete with 3 phases. First he just snipes us from a good, safe distance. Sometimes he pauses and recharges his energy. In phase 2 he sends out homing missiles. Phase 3 has fire tornadoes and he also tries to ram us occasionally. Now this fight isn't a huge ordeal, but even if you die on the last phase, you restart the entire thing. That can be a bit boring, to be honest.
Granted, I'm notorious for forgetting the Dark Jak ability, so I could have made it easier on myself, given that the Dark Bomb wipes out a whole life bar.
My 4th attempt was victorious, but the Baron escaped. Torn isn't thrilled about the attention Jak has brought to the underground. That's why he demands we bring 4 members to safety. This mission runs on a time limit. In a set order, the underground members are to be picked up with a 2 or 3 seated vehicle and brought to a safe house. The AI isn't stellar. Get on the vehicle already! Move your butt! Driving missions in the city are my least favorite by far because traffic is incredibly annoying, just like real life. For instance, here I turn around and crash into a guard. Mission over. Driving carefully within the time limit is a tall order, but I made it on my 3rd try. Phew! Our man Torn always has some tasks up his sleeve. It never ends. This time he wants the protagonists to protect the sacred site in Dead Town from metalheads. At least he gives us the third mod for our gun, the Vulcan barrel. Now we're talking. Basically a machine gun and seemingly unrelated to Star Trek in any way. We've been here before, but now it's packed with enemies. 2 new metalhead types are introduced, Sling Blasters and Rapid Gunners. Both will do damage from afar. Make strategic use of all the weapons. When it gets too much, the blue mod works wonders. But I also love to fire the blaster while doing a jumping spin attack, also known as the Wastelander move. Insanely effective, but keep an eye on your ammo. They got me good and I was really struggling with this mission. That's totally on me though, I got hasty and went with a bad strategy at first. The sacred site turns out to be Samos' hut. You know, the one from the first game.
But how's this possible?
We're in the future, Dax.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, so this turned into this. Depressing. Back in the underground lair, Torn informs us that the Shadow is finally willing to see us. That's an honor. What? Samos is the Shadow? But a younger but still old version? Make more sense, please. He wants Jak and Daxter to get rid of metalhead scouts in Haven Forest, Samos' source of power. On our way to the forest, the mechanic tells us that she left the jet board at the entrance and we get to keep it.
Finally!
This completely changes the game for me. I'll expand on that later. We get to the forest by stepping on this platform near the mountain temple. There are 5 scouts which need to be chased with the board. This reminds me an awful lot of the lurker chase in the first game. They're faster than us, so we may want to resort to cutting corners and whatnot. But they're on a fixed route, which makes it simpler. I hadn't adjusted to the controls by this point, so I had trouble with the one that requires grinding. Other than that, this was a treat and a nice change of pace from all the shooting. Again, there are 3 missions to choose from. Let's go with Samos the Shadow, who asks us to defend the little kid from guards. This one I had no problems with at all. Just stay near the kid and mow down the guards. Eventually we arrive at the vehicle and drive to the power station. The last bit is on foot again, but the guards pose no threat.
Thank you. I'll be sure to keep him good.
He seems suspicious. Core gives us an air train pass in order to disrupt the Baron's search for the Tomb of Mar at the dig site. The guards are gearing up. Now they have grenade launchers. They can't aim for shit, but you don't want to get hit. Did I rhyme again? Think stormtroopers and you'll be fine. Our job is to break 24 support cables by grinding on them with the board. My approach was to snipe the guards first and then go for the cables. Of course I managed to get caught in the explosions I caused, but after a few tries it worked according to plan. With the drill broken, we can leave this place for now. Our paranoid friend Vin is yapping about some eco-wells at the strip mine that will attract more metalheads. He gives us plasmite bombs, but clumsy Daxter activates them prematurely. Therefore, the next challenge is timed again. 2 minutes to be exact. This one gave me night sweats at the time. There are 6 wells and we need to use the half ramps with enough momentum to throw the bombs into the wells. The first challenge comes from finding the wells in the first place. Then you need to figure out the shortest route. Throw in hazards like drills and chainsaws and you've got a stressful endeavor ahead of you. As usual, I was clumsy as Daxter handling plasmite bombs, but I managed eventually. Not as soul-crushing as I remembered. So Core doesn't even give us a minute to breathe and already has the next task for us. Destroy a ship at the drill platform that's supposed to pick up a shipment of ill-gotten eco. Eco can go bad?
Is it like milk?
Another one of those missions that lingers in my memory like spoiled produce. I even read that many consider this to be the hardest mission in the game. Oh boy. We're sitting in a gun pod and firing at incoming hover guards. There are 40 of them on the first stretch alone and the gun pod has its own health bar. Yay. Managed to get out alive without fuss, but there's more. Now there's a large tanker that needs to be dealt with. Shoot at the turrets and also deal with the guards. Reminds me a lot of the engine boss fight in Crash Bandicoot 3. But what can I say? This was a breeze. No hint of a challenge. There's a third section, however. Another tanker and even more guards than before.
I don't know what to tell ya. First try.
Is the HD version easier? I don't think so. I'm surprised how well that went. Still not a big fan of these types of missions because they get repetitive quickly. Jak pays another visit to Onin and young Samos happens to be there as well. They send him to the dig site. Why? To fetch a seal piece of the Seal of Mar. Whoa, what the hell is up with Samus's face? This is the stuff of nightmares. Our second visit to the dig site is different because the guards have been replaced by metalheads. Armies of them. In order to reach the lurker village, we need to press 5 buttons which are hidden throughout the level. Most of them aren't hard to find, but it takes a while, so buckle up. The difficulty comes from the sheer amount of enemies and the floor is literally lava. No sloppiness allowed. Some elements we haven't seen before, like puzzles in a construction site. The idea with the metal boxes is that we need to punch them down, forcing them into place without making the whole row collapse. The trapezes hanging from the balloons make me nervous. One false move and I'm getting flung into the lava. At least that's what my brain says. With all buttons pushed, we make it past spiked metal balls and get the seal piece.
While most missions up to this point were breezy and shorter than 10 minutes, this one took me almost a half hour.
I'm aware it was mostly my own fault because I wasn't patient enough to repeat the same sections after dying over and over. Still wasn't such a big fan of it, to be honest. Torn informs Jak that the Baron has brought in new Hellcat cruisers.
Take a guess what our job is.
Yep, destroy all 5 of them. This is the first mission that made my blood boil. It shouldn't be that hard. The cruisers don't take that big of a punch, but I kept getting my butt handed to me. The first 3, no problem. By the point I'm getting to number 4 and 5, I either blow up or get shot to ribbons constantly. Even when I drive like a grandma, some maniac guard crashes into my vehicle. Is this the Suicide Squad or what? I did manage to win at the end by being really cautious and changing vehicles often. Boy, was this irritating.
Haven't seen Crew for a hot minute.
A while back he had given us a task which I've successfully ignored up until now. Jak needs to get rid of 16 mines within a time limit in the port. The idea is to smash into them with a jet board, which I had completely forgotten, so I did it with a zoomer. Works just as well, if not faster. Really fun mission that requires speed and precision. Crew wants us to rescue 3 lurkers. Feels weird given how many we brutally murdered in part 1. No remorse from our heroes. He gives us a weapon upgrade which increases the ammo capacity.
Damn, so I should have done this mission earlier.
Whatever. This one's similar to the Hellcat cruiser from earlier. Destroy the prison zoomer, but don't forget to pick up the lurkers and bring them to safety. Come on, hurry up, bro. God, sometimes the AI is driving me nuts. But we make it anyway, no problem. So we meet Bruter the Lurker, who is very happy to see us.
You have do great thing for Brutal and Lurker people.
Crew again. This time he needs us to find a statue of Mar in the sewers. Oh no, not the sewers. Back to horror territory, just when I thought I'd escaped for good. Equipped with our nifty jet board, we get to explore new areas. It's unironically kinda cool. These valves can drain the water and reveal more of the tunnels. The hazards are plentiful but easily avoidable. Do this a few times and there's the statue. Man, this only took 3 minutes, but I enjoyed it despite the drab setting.
I wanna watch the Matrix green out of my eyes.
At the bazaar, we run into Ashlyn just as she and her guards get ambushed by metalheads. Again.
Of course we help, cause we're the good guys.
There isn't much to say here other than shoot, shoot, shoot. Well, and dodge, dodge, dodge. Survive, survive, survive might come into mind too. What I don't like is that after dying, the cutscene restarts. You can skip it though. Thankfully, this mission is extremely short, like 1 minute. This whole thing feels like a side note, really. Time to return to the stadium and talk to the mechanic, who of course turns out to be Kira. She's not loving Jak's new look. Anyway, Jak tells her that he needs to get to the Baron. Her solution is for him to win the racing championship. Okay, sounds easy enough. Problem is we need to pay our dues and win some lower class races first. And that's what we'll do now. I'm surprised the races start this late in the game.
My memory was wrong again.
Personally, I like the races, but I'm not super great at them. This first one is no fuss though. You have to keep in mind that your vehicle can get destroyed if you crash into walls or fall down a pit. The pink glowing orbs are boosts and you can hold 3 at a time. Great for shortcuts like this one. It took me a minute to get used to the controls. This air racer is much faster than all the other vehicles found in the city after all.
And Kira's
A friend. A very good friend.
Jeez, Kira, calm down. Sig asks us to take out the combat metalheads in Haven Forest. Here's the catch. They're hard to see, almost invisible. There are 30 of them and they attack from a distance. Sounds impossible? It really isn't. The thing is that the so-called cloakers won't shoot when you're near them. So never stand still and look out for moving skull gems. I don't think this is super hard or anything, but you'll probably get hit a few times and dying means repeating the entire mission. That fact alone weighs heavy on the chest and makes this one of the more obnoxious challenges. The area is quite large, so finding the last guy can be a chore. Nonetheless, I had fun here, but would have preferred a checkpoint along the way. Earlier we were given the mission by Bruter to get another seal piece at the water slums. But uh-oh, it's a trap by the Crimson Guard. Oh boy, I'm having flashbacks to my first playthrough of this game.
This mission made me question my sanity. It was brutally hard and it took me days to finish it. It almost made me quit entirely. On the other hand, I remember beating it on the first try the last time I played it.
So what's the deal here? Will my rage get the better of me? Air trains drop a wave of hostile guards, and it doesn't take long before we're surrounded. You could try to be clever and use the board to escape over the water, but a robot guard will kill you on sight, so it's out of the question. Get too close to the air trains and a turret will blow us up. So basically, we need to inch forward, try to kill as many guards from a distance as possible while also not wasting ammo. I used the blaster and tapped the shoot button, making every shot count. It's exhausting because it never seems to stop. And you guessed it, dying means starting from the beginning. I get why so many people hate this mission with a passion, but my tactic paid off. Even though it got way too intense at the end for my taste, I made it without dying even once. So I'm happy to report that I've mastered this area and beaten a trauma from my youth yet again. But seriously, it's too long. Now we've reached a point in the story where it stays linear for a while. Onin wants to test Jak's brains before she reveals the last seal piece to the Seal of Mar. It's explained in one sentence. Press the buttons that appear on screen. The goal is to get 400 points and you can only miss 20. I'm usually pretty good at this stuff and sure enough, it was a cinch. It gets stressful at times and I could imagine many players groaning at this. Minigames are fine and all, but being required to win this in order to progress with the story could be problematic. After revealing the seal piece, we are given instructions on how to reveal the Tomb of Mar. At the mountain temple, a precursor door is unlocked by the seal. Within just a few moments, we're at No Man's Canyon and use the 3 artifacts we collected earlier to activate a light tower. Oh, so that's where the tomb is. Mystery solved. In order to find the precursor stone, one has to pass the 2 tests of manhood. Contrary to what everyone assumed, the child is too young to face the tests. Is there someone who could step in at the last minute? Of course there is. The time has come to explore the legendary Tomb of Mar. Let's take the left path. In addition to Widowmakers, you've got a platforming challenge with moving pillars and spikes. Fairly simple stuff. Daxter gets himself into trouble and believe it or not, we actually get to play as him for the first time. It's a world premiere. Of course, the boulder chase towards the camera is an homage to Crash Bandicoot, but soon enough it's a giant freaking spider that's chasing poor Dax. He controls like Jak with double jumps and melee attacks. Too bad that this part is over so quickly. That was fun. That also means we get to play a solo Jak for a change. There's no difference other than that it's a lot more quiet. After jumping from pole to pole, we find a switch and set off a laser. The right path is next.
You must not use weapons in this challenge.
Alrighty then, kill my buzz. This challenge is self-explanatory. Just hit the beetles with the red markings on their bottom or you'll get hurt. Next marks the first challenge where diving is required. The alternative would be electrocution. Not pleasant. At the colored panels, we're only allowed to jump on the ones that light up for a second. After that, all 3 challenges repeat in a slightly harder variant. Finally, we reach a creepy room with a dozen tombstones. Hitting them will trigger a melody and you have to match pairs. I love memory, so this is right up my alley. With the 2 lasers activated, the giant door opens. Oh hey, there's Daxter, our mouthy buddy. The Oracle gives us some backstory, but before Jak can pick up the stone, Baron Praxis crashes the party and attempts to steal it for himself. This marks the second boss fight against him and, per the norm, it's split into 3 phases. First he launches spy droids, which can't be defeated with melee attacks. Then he drops bombs, which we kick back at him like a football. The second phase is similar, but he also shoots at us occasionally. Hide behind the pillars, but keep in mind that they'll break after a while. Phase Phase 3 is more difficult because he now possesses the stone. He destroys more and more of the stone ring we're standing on. It took me 3 attempts to win and I found it to be an okay fight. As usual, the annoying part is that there's no checkpoint and death means repeating the entire thing. Even though Jak wins the fight, the Baron escapes with the stone. That's bad news, bro. Overall, I liked this tomb setting a lot and enjoyed the different challenges presented here. It turns out Torn tipped the Baron off to protect Ashlyn. Noble, but extremely stupid. Not only does he have the Precursor Stone in hand, but he's also captured Tess and the Shadow.
I really wish that didn't happen because we're about to play the mission that angered me the most on this playthrough.
This task is heavily focused on shooting at guards. Not only the red ones, but they added yellow elite guards and even hover guards to the mix. The yellow ones are patrolling the city now too, by the way. Things have escalated fast. Anyway, in addition to dealing with a flood of them, we also need to push buttons to deactivate an electrical barrier. I feel like this shouldn't be such a struggle, but I kept dying on this first part. Sometimes due to my own stupidity and sometimes... well, it was probably always because of that, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating. Then there's a bunch of turrets. Don't get in the line of sight. There's also a half-pipe with electric traps. I bet Tony Hawk would love this shit. Slaughter more enemies and eventually a cutscene is triggered where the friends are rescued.
What took you so long?
As if it wasn't complicated enough.
You're you! I mean, the other you! I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess this stretch would have been easier if I had used Dark Jak, but as usual, I forgot. I'm just so sick of seeing these damn guards by now.
They've become a wallpaper on the back of my eyelids. I can't escape them.
We're back to having the choice of 3 missions. Which should I take? I choose Crew, who's asleep. Sig admits he's thinking about getting out, but then Crew wakes up. His next task requires us to escort 3 of his guys to the statue in the sewers. We're getting used to life as a bodyguard. He believes there's another secret down there.
Let me pause for a second. This is yet another one of those missions that I hated with a fiery passion on my first attempt. I know for a fact that I wasn't alone, and I specifically remember an old YouTube video by a channel that doesn't exist anymore, Jak II.
He was furious about this part and I loved that video at the time.
You guys didn't even bother to defend me! I'm the one risking your neck out! Oh my god! Don't you have any consistency of protecting me when I'm protecting you?
So what's my take on it? Should I scream at a 21-year-old video game like a psychopath and scare off my neighbors?
The 3 guys need protection, but my motivation isn't too high. Why? They won't shut up.
Crew said you'll protect us all the way to the statue.
I got 30 keys of high explosives strapped to my back. Great.
Yeah, why did we sign up for this?
Just shut your whiny traps and keep moving.
Every time you die, they repeat the same old lines.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard them, and I almost got an anxiety attack when I started.
It's a slow affair. Walk a bit, shoot metalheads, walk some more, shoot some more. Occasionally they blow up a wall, but other than that, they aren't really helpful in any way. Not only do you have to keep an eye on your own health bar, but on 3 more. To my surprise, there was only one part that gave me trouble, and unfortunately it's at the end. Deal with an army of monsters. Die, start the entire mission over. Again, that's complete bullshit.
Quiet, here comes Pretty Boy.
Is one single checkpoint too much to ask for? Apparently so in Jak II, like the game is telling you, shut up baby, we're hardcore.
The Wastelander move worked wonders here and it only took me 3 tries to win. That last attempt took me 5 minutes, so it's not a long stage. It's the repetition that makes it so terrible. Not a big deal today, but I can't say I'm a fan. Especially because they just take off with the Heart of Margem. Sure, no problem. At least we get the Peacemaker as a reward, which is the most powerful weapon in the game that is great for dealing with hordes of enemies at once. Samos and Samos ask us to destroy 3 bomb bots that are heading for the underground hideout. Sure, if you stop arguing.
Well, if you'd taken better care of yourself, I wouldn't be in the state I am now.
Even though there's no timer, the mission is over should a bombot reach the hideout. You know the drill, destroy all of them without dying yourself. Using our new Peacemaker while riding a vehicle didn't work at all for me. Instead I jumped off the vehicle and went apeshit with the Vulcan cannon. Thus, they were all dead in minutes. Jak is supposed to win the Class 2 race at the stadium, but he runs off like a little brat after an argument with Kira. Naturally, Daxter takes over, which makes this the second time we get to play as him. It plays exactly the same, but the course is more advanced. Learn the track and surely you'll win. Jak is proud, and so am I. I just hope Jak and Kira make up soon. Can't stand all this fighting. Crew urges us to take a fall and lose the next race to Errol on purpose. Haven't really mentioned him yet, but we've seen him a few times. He's a Crimson Guard and basically the right-hand man of the Baron. Jak of course won't have any of it. Errol then challenges him for a race through the city. Tess looks worried. Contrary to the other races, this one's tough. We have to drive through accelerator rings. Errol is fast, so one mistake basically means failure. Miss one ring and it's over. The race itself is over 2 minutes long. This was grinding on my nerves because I kept making mistakes. It never felt impossible, but it was stressful, bordering on dread. Getting a flawless run requires practice and patience, and it took me about 15 minutes to finally get it right. Via communicator, Samos sends us to Dead Town to retrieve a life seed. It's been a while. This is where the Titan suit is introduced. It's slow but handy. With it we can smash walls, push, pull and throw stone cubes, jump, and best of all, knock out metalheads. I feel like Ripley beating the shit out of the Alien Queen in Aliens. Gameplay is a little slow for my taste, but I respect that they tried something new. It's a rather short romp and the life seed is in our hands before we know it. Onan tells us that young Samos needs the life seed to gain his sage powers. We seek him out in Haven Forest and deliver the seed. But surprise, it's a guard ambush. They come from 2 sides and there are also hover guards for good measure. This one's nothing to brag about, however. I used the blaster to deal with each and every one of them. Compared to some of the other missions we've seen, it's child's play. The life seed gives Samos a terrible vision that the Baron is planning to destroy the precursor stone. This would wipe out the entire world.
I assume that's bad?
Time to visit our paranoid friend Vin. He says we have to destroy a whole bunch of metalhead eggs at the strip mine. For a change, this involves neither shooting nor driving. Instead, most of our time is spent on the jet board. On a fairly linear path, we zoom past chainsaws, drills, grind rails and half pipes. I can't believe I'm saying this, but there's even a checkpoint.
Someone heard my prayers. Probably an oracle.
This is a really nice change of pace. I wish there were more levels like this. They drop a metal container on top of the eggs, which are now history. Core explains that the Baron has kidnapped the little boy. He knows no boundaries. The plan is to destroy the main control tower at the drill platform to temporarily stop the Baron's use of eco. Titan suit mission number 2. It's straightforward as well. Jump over lasers, get out of the suit here and there to reach levers. Some of the platforms drop, but that shouldn't be a problem. Hey! Oh, come on, man. Once you get the hang of the timing, you should be at the control tower shortly and you'll destroy 10 of the computers. What follows is a timed escape sequence that poses no challenge. Unless you're cocky like me. Decent endeavor. Bruter kindly asks us to save 6 more of his lurker friends. It's the same stuff we did earlier, just different locations and more prisoners. Moving on. From here on out, the mission structure is linear for the remainder of the game. It's finally time to win the Class 1 race. This time Errol is among the competitors, but he doesn't seem to be any better than the other racers. This third race is supposed to be the hardest one, but there are a few obvious shortcuts that can give you an advantage. Personally, I found this one to be the easiest. I mean, I won on the first attempt. It's a thrill though. As the Baron congratulates us, he's surprised to see our faces. How? How wasn't he aware of this? And then this happens.
I win, Jak.
What on earth is going on? After the race, we're chased by guards, but there's almost no point in dealing with them. Just let them kill you and they're gone. At least we still got the palace security pass, which is where we're headed. We run into Ashlyn, who's suspicious at first, but has a change of heart after Vin tells her that the Baron's plan will destroy literally everything.
That's bad, right?
She gives us a black security pass which grants access to the weapons factory. There's no way out other than to battle our way through the palace. This is another combat-heavy mission with more pesky guards. Where am I supposed to go? Ah, okay. Not too obvious, but I'll take it. But here it doesn't work. Oh. No! Ah, from the beginning. This isn't that hard, but it's punishing. After many tries I made it out alive, but I feel dead inside. On to the weapons lab. It's mercifully brief. Frag more guards and change the direction of escalators. The robo-guards roll around for a bit, much to Jak's bemusement. For variety's sake, there are some spinning blades to jump over. By the way, why is there no music playing?
Oh, you know what? The mission isn't as short as I thought. It's just my recording that stopped after a few minutes. Shit!
My recording resumes at the end. Crew waits for us in the weapons lab. He gives us another gun upgrade to buy our silence about what we found out. Crew was helping the Baron all along. The upgrade increases our weapon damage.
Maybe it wasn't the best idea for him to give it to us in advance.
Boss fight time. Crew unleashes a bunch of green Slimer looking clones of himself that electrocute you on contact. I stuck to the scatter gun to fend off more at once. Eventually Crew can take damage, but then more clones respawn. It's basically the same routine 3 times. Keeping distance and shooting is the best tactic, I think. Okay boss fight, but nothing special. Crew is freaking pulverized. Ashlyn picks us up as the weapons lab explodes. We meet Tess in Crew's bar. She says he put something in this machine. For the third and final time we take control of Daxter and play a game of whack-a-mole. Just press the corresponding buttons on the controller and don't hit the red ones. Yellow ones are worth more points. It's extremely simple to rack up 1500 points, but who doesn't love whack-a-mole? The prize is a time map. After this mission, the town is overrun with metalheads. It's complete chaos. Reminds me of what Grand Theft Auto San Andreas would do at the end when it references the LA riots of '92. It's not safe to go outside. Tess told us that Crew had sent Sig on a mission deep into the underport. Oh no, it's the underwater Titan suit mission.
I remember when I recorded gameplay for my never finished review in 2012, this was the mission I struggled with the most, hands down.
For some reason the suit doesn't have oxygen tanks, so we constantly have to step onto vents to get air. Poorly designed contraption. Underwater we have to deal with mines on chains that gravitate towards us and squid heads, maybe the most disgusting metalheads yet, which is saying something. Bitch! Progress crawls at a snail's pace, but it's intense nonetheless. Eventually we get out of the water for a bit and jump across an array of tilting platforms. But then it's back into the depths of aquatic hell. In the end I was surprised how quickly I made it through this mission. I died twice, so it wasn't that bad. Way worse in my memory than in reality. We find Sig, who realizes he was set up by Crew and doesn't seem too bothered about his demise. To escape, there are puzzles to solve. Just hit the cubes into the squares on the floor under the time limit.
Shooting this is only gonna get it mad. Run!
Holy crap! Run, Jak, run! This perspective is awkward as hell. And why can't the checkpoint be after the puzzle? I've solved it before.
Great. Here comes that bad boy again. Move!
You again. This time there are even more hazards, but it's no big deal. Sig, for heaven's sake, don't stand on that bridge! This was beyond predictable.
So, is Sig dead or what?
I don't care right now because we finally have enough metalhead brains to go to the Oracle. And bam! Dark Jak is now
Invincible!
Maybe I should start using him more often. Jak and Daxter meet Kira and Bruter at the stadium. The Rift Rider is finished. You know, the device we found at the end of the first game. But how do we get it to the metalhead nest? Bruter helps out with balloons, but it's never as easy as it seems. This marks the final escort mission. Hordes of metalheads are out for the 2 green sages who are lifting the Rift Rider. Until they reach their goal, it's our job to protect them, and we instantly regret our career choice. They're coming from every angle, but it seems to be the same order on every attempt. It's a matter of learning where they'll come from. The minimap in the bottom right is helpful. As overwhelming as it seems, this whole thing doesn't even take 2 minutes, so it's manageable. Still, starting over from the beginning sucks as usual. They take off with the balloon and now we're on our own again. Vin called us to the construction site.
Jak, the core, construction site.
Did he just die off screen? That's sad and odd.
Plot twist! Core turns out to be the metalhead leader. I don't remember if that surprised me the first time, but people have been giving him suspicious glances, so you might have seen it coming. He kills the Baron and takes off. I wanted to do that. Yeah, so that's it. Simplest mission ever. I didn't have to do anything. We can stand here and check out the corpse. morbid. Aboard the air train, we make our way to the final set of missions, 3 to be exact. It's finally time to cause some mayhem in the Metalhead nest. The first part is really short. Shoot every beast you see and march forward. Jak places the precursor stone into Mars' gun and attacks the nest. The second part is longer but still pretty intuitive. This is where we first meet the invincible grunt elephants. Don't get too close to them. I managed to get through just fine but couldn't seem to find the exit. Where am I supposed to go? I'm pretty sure this is the right way.
Something's off. Let me look this up. Are you shitting me? The game treats me like an idiot.
Okay, let me kill myself and show you what I mean. From the beginning, I hate this. So I'm back at this spot. Just look. This wasn't here before. The game glitched out and failed to load this entire area.
What an epic fail. I ran around for almost 10 minutes and for what? I feel betrayed.
Now that the kind-hearted game decided it's okay for me to move on, we killed some more metalheads before we arrive at Metalcore, who reveals that the little boy he captured is in fact Jak. Time travel is so confusing, even if you don't question how it works. I'll fast forward through his speech because I don't feel like explaining all of this.
You were hidden in the past, and I hope that you would gain the skills to face me today. But Odin was wrong. Now that you've been altered with Dark Ego, the stone will never open for you. Your younger self, however, still has the pure gift. He alone can awaken the stone, the precursor entity which sleeps inside. This stone is a precursor, the last precursor egg. Ah, was clever. He covered his tracks well through time, hiding his last egg from me and building the shield and set it to defend it. It has been a long siege, but today I will finally feed on the last precursor life force.
I think you're forgetting one little thing, Melomaniac. We got the precursor stone.
Not for long.
I hope you got everything. This is it, the final fight. Metalcore hangs at the center and all we do is shoot at him while also managing those stingers. Phase 2 is basically the same but with wasps and stingers. Nothing outrageous, but Phase 3 ramps it up. Metalcore deals with us himself. Keep distance and hit him with the Peacemaker, or use the Dark Bomb, which I again forgot to do. On my second try I beat the final boss and we get to see the conclusion. This was way easier than I remembered. So basically the precursor stone is an egg and Mini Jak opens it. They send the boy back in time where he can grow up safely, or at least somewhere better than this. So we've created a never-ending loop. I guess that's why I keep replaying these games. It's a new genre of time horror. What else? Ashlyn is the new governor, Torn is the commander of the new Crimson Guard, and Daxter took over Crew's bar and named it the Naughty Otzel. Brilliant. Jak and Kira seem to be on good terms again. And Sig is alive. So this dark game has a happy ending after all.
Oh no, I am done with adventure.
You wish. And thus we roll credits. Technically, there's one more mission. The Oracle can be bribed one more time. The last power is too cool. Press L2 to become Giant Dark Jak. I wish I had this power on the last mission.
The main story may be over, but there's still some stuff to do.
At the beginning of this video, I told you about the orbs. Like a completionist, I've actually collected every single one of them you can find within the levels. I recommend you to use a guide because there are instances where you can't get some of them after passing a certain mission. Of the 286 orbs, only 94 are found on location. The rest have to be earned.
Let's try and round them up.
We can actually go back to Onan and play this minigame again. This time the goal has climbed up to 1000 points and the reward is 3 orbs. It starts slow but ramps up the speed significantly. My heart is racing. I didn't make it on my first attempt, but the second was successful.
And I thought I didn't have the reflexes anymore. Thanks for restoring my confidence.
Throughout the city you'll find several holographic interfaces which need to be unlocked. Pressing triangle starts a side mission of which there are several types. There are 15 orb searches. You're shown the location of an orb and you have to find it within a time limit which is usually tight. It requires knowledge of the city. Some of them are well hidden, others are hard to reach in such a short time span. Then you've got 3 ring races of varying difficulty. Don't crash into other vehicles and don't forget that you can use the board too. There are also 3 collection missions. Pick up a certain amount of objects within 2 minutes. The remaining 3 side missions require us to make a delivery within 90 seconds, shuttle more underground fighters similar to one of the main missions, and finally destroy 3 blast bots. Nothing new really. Every side mission yields 3 orbs. The gun courses can be played with all 4 weapons. For each medal on each course you get another orb trio.
Now let me tell you, getting gold is quite brutal. teeth grindy brutal.
You have to be absolutely perfect. The scattergun course took me about 20 minutes to win. Blaster gave me the most trouble. It took me half an hour. It takes a lot of memorization, both to get all the yellow targets but also ignore the red ones. It drove me insane, but my perseverance was rewarded at the end. The Vulcan barrel wasn't as difficult. Conserving ammo is the real issue. Within 15 minutes I got gold. By the time I got to the Peacemaker course, I was so done with this. Then I remembered that there are rewards for getting orbs. One of them is infinite ammo. With that cheat activated, this course was done in no time.
You might call it cheating. I call it time saving. I worked hard for it.
Of course, there's also racing. 2 of them are in the city and port. They're similar to the ones with Errol, but not as unforgiving. Managed to get gold, no sweat. But then there are the races in the stadium. You actually have to go to this hologram outside of the stadium and choose the course. It's the same 3 races from the main story, but also in reverse.
Beating them in story mode was no problem for me, but getting the medals? Whole different story.
I'm not good enough, plain and simple. I tried each race a few times, but didn't do well at all.
Being that I've already unlocked everything and the remaining orbs are just for show, I decided to skip torturing myself trying to win everything. I might not get 100%, but I sure as hell tried.
That means there's only one trial left over. Yep, the jetboard game from earlier. Same story here. I don't think I'll ever be able to get gold. I could barely get bronze. This too is a challenge I won't win.
But let me tell you, I've had enough for now. Might as well look at the rewards.
There's some fun stuff like toggling Jack's goatee on or off, mirror mode, big head mode, small head mode, unlimited dark Jack, invulnerability, hero mode, which is a new game with stronger enemies, and so on. There's also some stuff to look at like scrapbooks and so forth. In the secrets menu there are still question marks. The mega scrapbook can only be unlocked by getting 200 orbs in hero mode. No thanks.
Whew, that was a lot. Let's chill out for a moment and talk about the music and sound.
As with the first game, the voice acting does a lot of heavy lifting in bringing the characters to life. You could argue it's better here because there's way more of it. Not only are there more characters with actual important things to say, but compared to the first game, this feels more like a movie or TV series. Michael Irvin had the difficult task of giving Jack a voice. He went for dark and badass. It suits him well, but I have to admit that back then, it took me some time to adjust to it. Going from a mute dude in a mostly happy and colorful game to someone who could double as the lead singer for an early 2000s emo rock band was a drastic shift. I've had some time to get used to it and I kind of like it. Personally, I would have liked him a little less stuck up and serious, but that's just my taste. Him and Torn feel a bit too similar to me. Max Casella as Daxter is still hilarious, and the same goes for Chris Cox as Pecker. Can't make that shit up.
I am Pecker. Yes, I know. My mother, she was very vindictive.
My favorite performance besides Dax is probably Phil Lamar as Sig. I don't know why, but his confident action hero-esque delivery makes me smile.
Boom, baby! One less metalhead to think about.
Now the music is a stark contrast to the first game thematically.
It's a given by now that it's overall darker and moodier. There aren't too many uplifting songs here, if you know what I mean. It too was composed by Josh Mansell, among others. Therefore they kept going with a dynamic approach from Jak I. What I mean by that is that the music changes depending on different factors. Instrument layers get added when you ride a vehicle. Another layer emerges when you're on the jetboard. Pulling up the gun also gives the music new layers, and when you're in combat, it even intensifies. This is the case in pretty much every level. Most tracks are low-key, hovering in the background, so this helps shake things up just a tad, and some people might not even notice every change. Now I dig most of it, but I have a bone to pick with the Haven City music. It wore me out. In fact, it's worn me down even deeper every single playthrough. When you're in the city, this is the only track that ever plays, and I wouldn't cry if I never got to hear it again. I wish there was a little more variety, because you spend hours in the city.
But that's not the worst offender. A track that I've grown to despise is the Guard Pursuit.
Every time they're on your ass, this track plays. Every single time. Dealing with the guards mostly isn't a problem when you're cruising around the city, but I swear I'm so irritated with myself when I accidentally catch their attention because I have to listen to this damn track again. Sure, it gets you pumped the first time around, maybe even the 5th time. After hearing it 50 times, however, I definitely prefer earplugs. Other than that, I don't have any complaints about the audio. Like I said, most tracks feel rather dark, like Pumping Station for example. It feels mysterious and gives me an eerie feeling. But some tracks break the mold. Haven Forest feels more hopeful, given its natural location away from the grim city. Boss battles, on the other hand, have intense tunes that do a great job at keeping you on your toes. The title screen music captures the mood nicely, but it's far from memorable. And that pretty much sums up my feelings towards the entire soundtrack. It's doing what it's supposed to do and helps shape the game's identity.
However, it's far from memorable, which again makes it tricky to pick my favorites. There are a few that stand out to me, so here are my top 3 songs from Jak II: Renegade.
Number 3. The strip mine tune by itself is creepy and a perfect fit for the grim industrial setting. The added musical layer when Jak is armed makes it even better. I can almost feel the creepy little stingers crawl up behind my back. It has a melody that actually sticks in my head. Number 2. For the race with Errol, or pretty much every race, we get this rhythmic track that stands out among the crowd. The breakbeat drums are the best part. They push me to win against my hideous opponent. Number 1. This track has it all. A great bass line, mystery, urgency, and even a sense of wonder. Almost feels majestic, like this view we get over the whole city. It captures the essence of the palace flawlessly, without blowing it out of proportion.
Let's finally wrap this up.
We have a lot to discuss. Naughty Dog did something bold by completely changing the tone and structure from the first entry. Now let me start by saying that I'm a huge fan of Jak I and it remains my favorite game in the franchise up until this day. I just had to come to terms with this being a much darker game with a GTA style open world. Was this the right direction for the series? I'm not quite sure. I wouldn't have gone in that direction, but what do I know? It's hard not to think of this as Naughty Dog jumping on the GTA bandwagon. A city with pedestrians and law enforcement, vehicles you can steal, missions you often get to play in your preferred order, side missions, and freaking gunplay.
But before we shout rip-off and throw rotten precursor eggs at the game, let's look at these individual elements.
The city is expansive and full of different areas that prevent it all from looking the same. It doesn't feel like the greatest place ever, and that's intentional. I'm just not a fan. After a while, it does manage to feel kinda samey. My biggest problem is the navigation. I find it mostly tiresome to get from point A to point B because the streets aren't that well connected. Feels more like a maze. Sure, after a while you get to learn your way around the city, but navigation isn't intuitive and it doesn't feel that well thought out. The city is full of life and I think they did a great job with the technology available at the time. I just don't like driving in the city. I loved the zoomer missions in Jak I, and in more open areas I dig them here too, but driving at the higher altitude within the city is so annoying. Too much traffic. It's better to stay low. I have to admit that it's pretty rad to jump between vehicles and change them on the fly. I'd rather use the jetboard, which is one of my most beloved additions. It's such a fun alternative to driving and walking. The introduction of guns isn't popular with every fan of the series, and I understand why. It's not vicious or gory by any stretch of the imagination, so the violence stays cartoony. The weapon variety is fine, and there's something for every situation. Aiming hasn't aged all that well though, and it might take some time for newcomers to get used to it. Ratchet & Clank 2 has aged much better in that regard. The addition of Dark Jak is very unique. I just wish I didn't forget this feature constantly.
I don't know why that is, but I rarely barely used him.
That's a shame because I could have made it way easier on myself in some situations. It's like me only using pistols for the majority of early Tomb Raider games. I hold on to my resources for dear life, then I forget to use them. The mission variety is fine, I'd say. Sure, there are a few too many combat heavy tasks for my taste, but there are many minigames, driving sections or platforming challenges to overcome too. The elephant in the room is the checkpoint system. It's just intolerably boring to repeat large chunks because you made a tiny mistake. On the other hand, it forces you to get good. To my surprise, this playthrough and the one before were mostly smooth sailing. A few missions made me groan, but overall, I kicked the shit out of the infamous missions. It's a great feeling to know I could win things I was terrible at before on the first or second try. The unforgiving nature of Jak II makes it extremely intense at times, and it's such a relief when a mission finally wraps up. We get more content in the form of side missions and orb collecting. They're not mandatory, but I appreciate we have to work to unlock secrets. Not a fan of orbs being unreachable after certain points though. That's a design flaw in my book. Whereas the first game had a quirky little story going on, this game feels like a blockbuster in comparison. The cutscenes are great, and at the time I thought it couldn't get any better than this. Compared to its predecessor, the character models aren't as blocky anymore and look much smoother overall. The story is way more complicated than you would expect from a game like this, but it's not rocket science either. I enjoyed being part of the underground and picking a fight with the power-hungry authorities. When I break it down, there are pros and cons like with most games. Although I pointed out a bunch of stuff I wasn't the biggest fan of, I still think this is a standout game. It just might not be for everyone. It's a bit rough to get into and even rougher to finish. The feeling of beating a really hard Jak II mission though? Priceless.
I have to be honest with myself and with you, my viewers though. As of the recording of this video, this is my least favorite game in the trilogy, mainly because of Haven City itself.
Most other levels I like, and I found myself oddly drawn to the sewers with its almost horror-like setting. Looking over the city might even be my absolute highlight. But the tedious navigation, the guard music, and my inability to prevent car crashes drag it down for me. In conclusion, you need to have the right mindset for this game. Jak II doesn't mess around, and only with enough patience and skill will you master it. Personally, I like my Jak games a smidge more relaxing and more forgiving. You might feel differently, which is okay.
Just know that this is nothing like the first game except for similar controls. If you can deal with missions without checkpoints, a constant array of guards on your ass, and crew's smelly feet, this might be just the game for you.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching episode 9 of season 4. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.